school children, our young students, our pupils in our nation's learning institutions, many of them are going through various forms of abuse that are contributing towards their underachievement in the long run. Now, of course, many people have identified a number of factors, causal factors behind juvenile delinquency and educational underachievement. You have broken homes, dysfunctional families, faulty parenting, poverty, unemployment of the parents, cultural deprivation, lack of self-esteem, lack of personal motivation, negative peer group influences, learning disorders, and educational underachievement itself. But added as fuel to the fire of all of these situations are a number of individuals within the learning system, within the teaching profession even, that contribute towards the demise of the students. Now, in the news today, we heard of two cases regarding children. One, a 12-year-old boy committed suicide in Aruca after being disciplined by his grandmother. And then we heard of a school principal in Port of Spain, a primary school, flushing the head of a child in a toilet bowl. And there are a number of other cases, but there is one in particular that I want to raise with you that you may not have heard about. And this is a situation in a prestige school in Port of Spain, one of the top boys' colleges in Port of Spain, Trinidad, where last week, now today is Thursday, but we're talking about last week Thursday. Today is Thursday, January 26th. We're talking about 7 days ago, and this hasn't made the news as yet. But listen to what has been reported by a number of sources. And I'm going to give you the surname of the teacher involved. In one of the top boys' colleges, in an ADMATS class that was taking place after school hours, the teacher, whose name is Miss Rankisoon, lent a boy a past paper, and apparently the boy had scribbled on the paper, or he had put markings on the paper, and the teacher said to this boy, apparently it is reported he was hit as well, but the teacher says to this boy, why are you so black and stupid? And then she says, wait a minute, what am I saying? Being black and stupid are one and the same. It was reported that two of the boys in the class walked out of the class in protest and went and took the issue to a higher authority. Now, I'm just going to rewind a bit to review what happened. A boy puts markings on a past paper. He gives it back to the teacher. The teacher calls him black and stupid. And then says, well, what am I saying? That statement is redundant. Being black and being stupid are the same thing, are one and the same. Insulting, of course, everyone present. So two boys leave the classroom, go to the principal. Now the principal of this school is a black man. The vice principal, sorry. The vice principal is a black man. But he says, basically, well, he can't deal with this right now. And he refers them to the dean, who is a white man. The white man, the dean, takes the issue to heart and launches an investigation. And from what I understand, from that time to now, some of the students have signed to a piece of paper detailing what actually happened, and some of the students have signed saying, yes, this is exactly what has happened. It has also been reported that 4 of the East Indian students refused to sign it on grounds that, well, she wasn't serious. In their view, their perception of the situation is that, well, she wasn't serious, or she didn't really mean it, so they refused to sign. And then a couple other students refused to sign it as well on the grounds that their SBA, their school-based assessment, has to be marked either by the same teacher or by her colleagues or those close to her. But they were in fear of victimization, so they refused to put their name to the piece of paper. But the other students, of course, signed saying, yes, this is what happened. The teacher called the student black and stupid, and then compounded it by saying, well, being black and being stupid are the same thing. Now, the individual that I am most disappointed in is the vice principal. And this is one of the plagues of the after effects of slavery in the consciousness of black people in the 21st century. Whereas going back to the process of slavery, we as black people in the Western Hemisphere were robbed of our name, language, religion, culture, morals, folkways, laws, and norms, and everything that once made us a great people. We were disconnected and dispossessed from the tremendous heritage and legacy of Africa that we have, and we were broken down, given our enemy's way of thinking, who set up headquarters in our own heads. So by us interacting in his educational system and also his belief systems, philosophically, ideologically, and also theologically, we replicate his agenda, his intentions, his aims, goals, objectives, and wishes to make his people better, greater, stronger, more economically viable, while we turn our backs on and contribute towards the self-destruction of our own people. Many of us, and too many of us, who are in some of these circles of persons of the so-called rainbow, here every creed and race finds an equal place, one love, rainbow country. Too many of us, black people, who find ourselves caught up in that mix, are so cautious about appearing to be the kind of black person who is interested in representing the interests of other black people. So the vice principal, being a black man now, feels that he has to allow the white man to define the parameters of human rights and civil rights and sensitivity ethnic issues as they pertain to black people. He was of the view that, no, I cannot pronounce on this myself, but those who are in authority over me by virtue of their ethnicity in the social class stratification order of Trinidad and Tobago and the rest of the Caribbean, historically, some black people still feel that non-blacks have to define for them the parameter of their own human and civil rights. And this is a mental curse, because right now in the first world, in parts of Europe, in the United States, in the developed world, you cannot make racist statements like that and just get away with it. If that teacher who used those racist remarks against that student, if that was in America or most parts of Europe, she would have certainly been fired by now, the least suspended, and it would have been in the hands of the police. You can hardly even go to a football match in England and make not just a racist remark, even a racist chant, and it not be a police matter. Even in the United States of America, that has such a long legacy of slavery, you cannot make those kinds of racist remarks and still maintain your employment, especially as a school teacher. Here you are as the teacher of a group of students, and the objective should be to impart knowledge, wisdom, and understanding on your pupils, but as the teacher of the class, you are sending a message explicitly, verbatim, that if you are black, you are stupid. So you're already teaching the children that by virtue of being black, you will be unable to learn, and your blackness within itself is an impediment against your education. Now, just the other day, there was a woman who was in charge of some agricultural department of the government of the United States. They found a video of her on YouTube making what they perceived to be a racist remark. They fired her immediately. She was driving on the highway in her car, and they sent her a message on her BlackBerry telling her, "You are fired." But this issue with this teacher in this prestige school in Port of Spain has been lingering on for an entire week and has not even been brought to media attention as yet. And I am telling you that if the shoe were on the other foot and the student was Ramkesoon and the teacher was black, then the Ministry of Education would have been involved by now. The teacher would have been suspended or been fired. Tim Gopi Singh would have probably been on it. TV6 News would have been there. CNC3, CNMG, IETV. There would have been all types of articles in the newspaper, telephone calls to all the radio stations. It would have been a national issue. But you know why it has lingered on for a whole week and the public still doesn't know about it as yet? It is because of how we as black people are as a community. Because the whole issue has been attempted to have been dealt with in such a manner whereby, okay, we want to solve the problem, but we don't want anyone to lose their job. We don't want the name of the school to come into disrepute. We don't want a scandal to be created. We don't want any sensationalism surrounding the students. And the victims in these kinds of instances, when they are black people, would go further to try to protect the perpetrators rather than bring them to justice. And 7 days later, going on to 8 days later, nothing has come out of this. And it has been reported also that this teacher, Ms. Ramkesoon, has been going around to the students who were in that class on that evening, one by one, apologizing to them individually and expressing to them how serious the situation is and that if it goes any further she could possibly lose her job, etc. Now, me personally, I am not one to ever try to cause anyone to lose their job, but the idea that I have as far as dealing with this is concerned is that I would like to get involved from this point of view. I would like to write out an apology for her to read in front of the entire school. And I would write this apology in the capacity as a speech writer on her behalf. And I will, in that apology, I will write and list the numerous achievements, academic achievements, in the field of economics, in the field of science, in the field of law, in the field of politics, in the field of sociology, in the field of psychology, in the field of geography and geology, in the field of biology, chemistry and physics. In all these fields, I would like to list a number of black scholars, and very dark-skinned black scholars too, who have achieved in all of these fields. Get her to read this before the entire school, acknowledging the supreme intelligence of black people when it comes to academics, all of the scholarship winners, all of the professors, all of the doctors of philosophy, all of those great students who have persevered over the years, all of the writers, the authors, the poets, the critical thinkers, the philosophers, the educators who are black, who've contributed towards the academic achievement and development of the entire Caribbean region and the Western Hemisphere in general. I would like her to read out a list acknowledging the supreme intelligence of black people, and then admit that the only stupid thing about this entire situation were her statements that she made about black people. And so the only real stupidity that was exercised was the teacher herself in saying those things.